Welcome to the Accomplish More podcast, created specifically for the small business owner who doesn't think small. I'm your host, Gayla Scrivener. This show is where you'll learn practical ideas, hints, tips, and tricks to help you grow your small business, where you can leverage your time and to accomplish more. Do you make these 15 mistakes in goal setting? Hey, we're glad that you're here with the Accomplish More podcast. It's December.
Yay!
It's the end of the year and it's the traditional resolution time. And I don't know about you, Sharon, but it is super busy around the holidays for me.
Yeah.
I mean, with family and trying to get-togethers going and work stuff, and it can get stressful.
Yes, very frustrating sometimes.
I try not to let it get stressful and try to be laid back, but with the coming of the end of the year and it's pressing hard against us, I start reflecting and then start beating myself up on the goals that I set out last year to do, and I haven't gotten accomplished yet.
Yeah. I think everyone does that a little bit, and there are ways to get around that.
Yeah.
Beating yourself up doesn't accomplish anything.
It does not, and I know that many of us get frustrated, and we start focusing on what we did not accomplish at the end of the year, and we hurry up to do some catch-up work, or we make these resolutions and to get started come January 1st.
Yeah.
So I thought today we would talk about the 15 mistakes that we make in goal setting. But first, I've got a question for you. Did you have a goal that you set out to do either last year, or at the beginning of this year or last year or whatever, and you haven't met it yet?
I did. We had a couple of family goals, big goals, and neither one of them have been accomplished. And it sits in the back of our head and eats at us and worries us, but we know things just weren't quite right yet.
What's one of them?
One of them is to open a new business.
Wow, that's
It is a big one.
project. It doesn't happen overnight.
No. And we've been planning, but maybe the wrong way. And always when we think we're getting closer, something big happens that takes precedent.
Yeah, and that opening the new business has been kind of on your mind for quite a while.
Yeah, for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years now. And then we ended up having to build a new house first, and that took precedent, and we did that, and we thought, okay, this is next.
And our priorities change. And,
yes.
But you've mentioned to me that you're kind of beating yourself up. It's like, I'm so frustrated. Why isn't it happening?
Why can't we do it? But even the focus of our business has changed quite a bit from conception to now. So.
And I think that there's reasons why things happen and reasons why things get delayed. One of my unfulfilled goals, I guess, for the year, it has been a book that my husband Robert and I wanted to publish about. It's basically more him, but I'm kind of helping in the background because that's what I do.
Yes, background worker. He
is a fantastic photographer, especially landscape, and we do a lot of traveling and stuff. Well, he did a project with his, I'll probably say it wrong, but his Hasselblad camera, which is a medium format film camera. And we have this idea of doing a photo book, and it's mainly photos, not a lot of words, but just getting it together and organized and getting it done is a fairly big project.
Yeah.
But we have this idea of calling it in the viewfinder because he did a series of pictures of not only of he has the end result, but he took pictures in the viewfinder because he's got this big viewfinder and it's kind of on top of the camera, and he took a picture with his iPhone and the iPhone picture in the viewfinder, and then compare it with the one that's produced, with the film. And we've been talking about that all year, but we have not made any movement on it whatsoever. And I think it's a cool idea, and it's a goal of ours. But I know and I recognize that we're making some of these mistakes that we're going to go over today. And it's not that we should be beating ourselves up for not reaching the goal, but when we understand the mistakes or the things that are holding us back on moving forward to our goal, I think that can help us in a positive manner. Yeah. So let's dive right on in. The first reason or the first mistake that we have in our goals is that they're too vague.
Yeah.
We want to lose weight. We want to earn more money. We want to, just so vague.
Yes.
And we all should know what a SMART goal is. There's an acronym that comes with the goal setting. You want to spout out what SMART means?
Well, the S is for specific, and that is pretty self-explanatory, but the more specific you can be, the better it will be to obtain your goal. M is for measurable. A is attainable. R, realistic. And T is for time-based, like your deadlines.
Yep. And I think it takes practice in really looking at breaking down the acronym of SMART goals, and it takes practice to make them specific. When you're not specific, it's more of a woulda, coulda, shoulda type scenario. I wish. But when you, instead of saying, Robert and I often say, oh, we need to travel more. Well, that's not very specific.
No.
Well, then we have made it our goal for next year is we are going to be traveling 3 months next year. And we've gotten even more specific and put on our calendar when we're going to be gone.
Good.
And that makes it more real. And so that's specific on those time frames. And then we know where we're going and what events we want that's become our priority. And we want to be more involved in our overlanding and fun stuff in our travel activity. Well, how do you do that? Well, the specific goal is that we are going to apply for volunteer positions at the events that we're going to.
Wonderful.
So that kind of that makes things more specific. And we know that one of our long-term goals is to go to Alaska, but make it a 6 to 9 month type excursion and not be in Alaska that entire time, but it's going to take us a while.
Yeah, a slow road up there.
But right now we're not being very specific because it's not in our radar. The first, next year, we've already mapped out our calendar for traveling.
And that's what it takes, is to map it out and be very specific about it.
And writing out the goals, I think, is important. And putting pen to paper and the old-fashioned way, and then you can convert it to digital and stuff. But then you have to have this reminder, I think.
Yep.
And I think probably the biggest resolution that people have is about our health and our weight.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is something that it can be measured, and that's why, we don't necessarily see ourselves inching up in weight over time because of our lifestyle choices. But by golly, we want weight taken off like instantly.
Yeah.
And so we may do some comparisons here, but being specific with our weight loss, not just saying I want to lose weight or I want to be healthier. It needs to be specific.
Yes.
I mean, what is it in numbers that you can see results? If you weigh a certain amount, then where do you want to be?
And be realistic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you have, I've got a friend that was on cholesterol medicine, and he was adamant. He's like, I want off of this medicine. And he has to get his levels down, his cholesterol levels down. And he made it his mission to eat differently. And the side effect of that was losing weight, but he really studied, and his drive was to get off that medicine. And he is super proud. A few weeks ago, he went into his doctor's appointment, and they said, you don't need this medicine anymore.
Oh, yay.
And that was his goal. He knew where his numbers for his lab work needed to be, and he took the steps to do it. So
that's wonderful.
Being specific is important. So that's the first mistake we make when setting goals. We're just too vague, and then we're beating ourselves out saying, I haven't lost any weight. Well, have you set that specific goal?
Yeah.
Number 2 is we don't have time.
Yes. Well, everybody can relate.
We say that we don't have time to reach that goal. And it's a matter of prioritizing where you spend your time. Are we wasting time on unnecessary tasks? I mean, maybe we're watching TV when we should be writing. If our dream is to write that book, like I said, I'm not writing anything, but to format that book.
Yes.
I guess there has to be some words in it. Am I spending my time, watching TV when I should be doing the tasks toward that goal?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm spending too much time on Facebook when I should be exercising. You
can do both.
You can do both.
If you have to.
How do you do that? Facebook on your phone. I don't have enough coordination, Sharon.
Stationary bike. I don't. Spin class.
I still don't think I have coordination.
I don't either, honestly, but
But actually, you're right in that, doing two things at once on certain things. Sometimes you have to have your focus in one place, but then what is it? How are you spending your time? With Robert and I traveling so much, he had approached he had just flat out asked me, he's like, well, can't you work while I'm driving? And I'm like, I get car sick, Robert.
Ooh, I do too, bad.
I need to.
That's the one place I can't.
I need to watch the road. But that got me to thinking. It's like, well, how can I be productive in the car? Is there something else that I could be doing? Since he's a musician, he listens to music differently. And so for listening to music is like work to him because he tries to break down the songs and stuff. So there's a time and place for listening to music. So we don't listen to music a lot. Well, maybe we should be listening to a book on tape. Yeah. Well, I guess not book on tape. Book on audio. Download a seminar that I've been putting off. podcasts,
Yes.
listening to podcasts, and filling our bucket of creativity, so to speak, or learning something. Maybe I could be planning, looking at my calendar and planning things, getting projects more in line while we're on the road. But that does involve me looking at a computer.
Yeah.
I have trained, I'm very excited. I'm training myself to be more effective working on the road and actually pulling out the tablet and typing some stuff up. I have typed up some blogs or some show notes and some things.
Wonderful.
Sometimes working depending on our internet connectivity. Now, I do know my limits. If we're on a straightaway, that's where I can work.
Yes.
Interstates, I can work on that. I know my limits. If we're on back roads, which we like back roads, and we like curvy roads, I can't do it.
Not to work.
Not to work. I know my limits, and I have to find something else. But that takes practice. I can't say that I'm super productive while we have a lot of windshield time, but I'm getting better. And figuring out when we're traveling how to be more productive and using the time wisely and not saying that I don't have enough time to do it. When can I find the time? If I don't have internet connectivity, what can I, do in that time frame? And when I do have internet connectivity, what are the tasks I should be doing? And it's also okay to have relaxed time.
Yes.
You got to have rest time. And that can be super productive. And having a conversation.
Yeah. Exactly. You and Robert should visit during that time.
But knowing the difference between busy and productive and prioritizing and having an open mind of when things should be done, I think. But a trick that I think that is important, I don't know if it's a trick or not, but when you think that you don't have enough time, put deadlines on yourself. In our business, that's how we run, is on deadlines, because when you produce a newsletter or have certain things that need to come out at certain times, placing that deadline first and then moving backwards on scheduling what needs to be done. And we help our clients do that. But if we don't have deadlines, then it's never going to get done. I mean, that's why they hire us to begin with, is to help them get it done and to meet those deadlines. And I think, everything can take as much time or as little time as you want it to.
Yes.
And of course, some things take more time when you're first doing it. And with practice, you get better. And sometimes when you plan something, I don't know, what comes to my mind is fixing the automobile. I mean, my dad is a mechanic. Robert knows how to fix things, and it seems like a seemingly simple task. Something goes wrong, and it takes 5 times as long as what you think. It doesn't always happen that way, but when you are planning something for a little bit of time, then that's when things go wrong. I guess that's Murphy's Law.
Yes. Well, that happens.
But if you set time aside to do a certain thing and you get faster at it, more efficient, or set deadlines on it. But I'm also thinking of a fish in a small, a goldfish in a small fish tank will stay small.
Yes. Like the little betta fish in the itty bitty jars. You put those in a big one.
They get bigger. And even, I believe sharks are the same way.
Yeah.
And they get bigger with bigger home.
Yeah.
I think that's a pretty much with anything, you know, if you have bigger space, you're going to take longer to do. So if you set deadlines and really adhere to those and put that fire under you, it helps. Even if you're doing it at the last minute, it's you get it done. So learning how to manage your time. And I believe that if it's truly important, that it finds its way on your schedule.
Yes.
And
I agree.
We had talked about how to schedule things and put it for real as an appointment, even if it's an appointment for yourself, with yourself. And like Tony Robbins says, you know, I'm paraphrasing his quote, but if you schedule it, it becomes real. And otherwise, you're just talking about it.
Yeah.
And going back to the weight, if there is a task that you need to do to get you to a particular weight goal, so maybe like exercise, which I find it very difficult to move it onto my schedule. But if I plan on doing, I don't know, a daily walk or whatever, it needs to move onto my schedule or it just doesn't get done. And if it's not on my schedule, and to actually get up away from my computer and get out and move, then how am I going to get to the weight that I want to? You know? And people say, I'm going to go to the gym and things like that. Is it on your schedule or does it always get pushed off? So that's why I think that, you know, you will find time for things that matter. Number 3, I think that the number 3 mistake that people make is too many goals.
Yes. We start out all excited and line them all up in January, resolutions.
How many resolutions maybe have you had in the past and at one time?
I don't make so many resolutions, but I do set goals if I feel they're attainable within a year or maybe a 2-year. But my resolutions are not like that too much.
Yeah.
They're more personality.
So you separate resolutions and goals differently.
Goals are business or family or home or something. And then my resolutions tend to be
more spiritual. I never thought of it that way. I have them, and I interchange it. Well, that's cool. You know, I kind of interchange it, the words and think of them the same. But I like that that you have the differentiation. But for goals, I don't know. I hear a lot of folks, they list out 20 or 30 things that they want to do. And it's like, where do you focus? Where do you start? when folks start working with us, and this is where I get overwhelmed, there's so many things that they want to accomplish all at once. And we have to table some of that stuff and focus on one thing at a time. Because if we try to do everything all at once, we don't get anything done. And so that's where I think that people make mistakes, is that they bite off more than they can chew. And sometimes those goals are really tasks from a big overall goal.
Yes.
So learning how to prioritize those, and I like to say chunk things down and do one thing at a time, do it well. And once you have that system in place, then move on.
Yep. My husband is a big list maker, and that way he can see, oh, hey, I've got time. I can get this done right away. And so he chunks them down his own little way and gets it accomplished.
Yeah. I think lists are very important. Number 4, try to handle everything all at once. And we kind of went into that with too many goals. When a client comes and says, well, I want to do this, and this, and let's get this all done right today. Well, first of all, we don't know them very well.
Mm-hmm.
And with what we do with content marketing and finding their voice, we have to get to know them a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's better to do one thing, get that system, because they get not annoyed. I wouldn't say that, but they get overwhelmed
Mm-hmm.
if we're asking certain questions and getting things in line, and then they abandon the idea altogether.
And often that's because they haven't thought about it maybe themselves to understand how to explain it to us.
Exactly. And, when you start something new, you got to start new habits.
Mm-hmm.
And if you start new habits all at once, your brain just does not want to function.
It's very overwhelming.
And there's a lot of resistance on that. And once things get to be more routine, then you can handle adding something to it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 5, we get distracted. You got this goal in your vision, but then, over here, I want to do this. Over here, I want to do that. I know that, when there's something new and I've got to get a new habit, I don't necessarily want to do that. So what can I do in place of that?
Yeah.
Because maybe that new habit is hard. Maybe it's something I know that it's good for me, but I want to.
It's not a habit yet, maybe.
But I know that when someone else needs help with something, I just feel obligated to help them, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have a task to do, if there's something that needs your attention so that you can reach that goal, and like you were talking about that new business, well, you needed. I would not call building your new house a distraction. It's something that happened, but did take you away, and it did distract a little bit.
Yes,
but that was a reason, and you prioritized getting the house done and built, because your previous house, there were health issues and that, and that became a priority for the well-being of your family. And, well, I'm just going to say, health issues in a house, people may be saying, what in the world are you talking about?
Too much mold.
Too much mold that could not be eradicated.
Yeah.
And for as long, you guys tried that for a long time and had a lot of experts.
Yes.
And the best thing that needed to be done was to build a new house.
Either start fresh on that one and the foundation wasn't worth saving, or start fresh elsewhere.
Because it was a super cute house. But
we tried.
underneath, in the bones, there were things that could not be salvaged. Yeah. And so your focus went on to building the house. And
took us away from the business.
But that's okay.
But yeah.
And then I know for like things in writing, for example, sometimes I think, okay, this is going to take me a lot longer than what I want to, but I need to sit down and just do it. And then Robert will ask a question. My husband, Robert, will come in and say, how do you do this? How do you do that? I got frustrated because I knew myself. It's like, I'm going to help Robert because I don't really want to sit there and do this. And so now it's taking 10 times as long. And all day I have wasted when I'd rather be playing after, 5 o'clock or whatever. I want to do that. And so I started saying, Robert, I don't want you to take offense to this. But if I'm not answering you, when I'm not ignoring you, I'm just working.
Yes.
Now, at first, he was a little offended, I think. I hurt his feelings a little bit, but we have it as a joke now, because if I'm working and I'm trying to keep my concentration, because we live in a small place and there's no doors between our offices and stuff like that, I will just say, I'm not ignoring you. And he'll say, nope, you're just working. And he'll do what he needs to do and everything. And then when it's time to focus on him, I will focus on him.
Yeah.
And
well, that's very good to not get distracted that way. So once you're in the zone, typing, writing, working, whatever, and you get sidetracked, it's hard to get back into that, I have found.
And that's one productivity thing, is to chunk things down, block off time, and do that one thing, and then move on to something else. And it takes so much time to get your mind in that mode.
Yeah.
So I'm not ignoring you, Robert. I'm just working.
Just working.
So anybody can be using that. Number 6, procrastination. That is a big mistake that most of us have. And I think that getting distracted easily just helps us, that's part of our procrastination. And we try to find anything to do than what we should be doing. And so that's why I'm kind of easily distracted. So finding things so I won't on purpose procrastinate.
Yeah.
And I dread sometimes how long something might take. So I'll just put it off. And I know that because I look at the whole thing and I was like, oh my gosh. But I have to remind myself to chunk things down.
Yeah.
Do you ever procrastinate?
I am not much on procrastination. I'd rather get it done, and I think, oh, that is an overwhelming project. But if I dive in, I know it's going to be easier than I project in my head. And I'll probably get it done faster than I thought I would. I can't even think of an example, but I do have a friend that procrastinates on everything. And when we were in college, she would always procrastinate on her papers. She'd have a 25-page paper and wait until the last hour.
Wow.
To try and
get it done.
And she was great under pressure. But I would do it the day it was assigned because I did not like the feeling of it hanging over my head. I can't relax when I know I've got something I've got to do. So I don't like procrastination.
Well, that is awesome. But you might get distracted on some things.
I can, yeah. And the dread for me is not getting it done. It's not dreading, oh, it's going to be a horrible project. It's, I've got to get it done right now or I'm going to have a coronary.
Well, I have noticed that about you because we do have deadlines in what we do and everything. And I'm more of, it's closer to deadline. That's when I'm going to deal with it. But when we first started working together, and I would say, when you get around to it, I'm not even thinking about, or I'm not even going to look at it for another couple of weeks. It's like you drop everything, and just do it right then and there. And it's like, okay, it's all done. It's like, okay, Sharon, you didn't have to do it right then and there. And I felt kind of bad. It's like, oh, wait a second.
No, it's my nature.
But we work well that way because then I like it with you that you will help prompt me when things are getting close, or did this particular project piece of the project get done, and then we have our systems and our processes in place. And then I know that you're doing one of our clients. Is it January? No, December. December's e-newsletter. No, it would be. I'm all confused. Anyway, you're doing it several weeks in advance. And on our, we use Asana as our project management. I saw that all those tasks come through, and it's not even due for them to review it for several days, you
Yeah.
know, but you've got it all taken care of, and I love that.
I like to operate that way. I don't like the thought of something hanging over me at the last minute or, oops, did I forget something? So
Yeah.
I get it done fast.
I love that. I
Thank
love
you.
that. I think number 7 is afraid to fail. That's a mistake that when goal setting that we make, is that we're afraid to fail. So we either lack the confidence of doing something, or we strive so much for perfection that we don't actually like pull the trigger and get it done. There are some goals well, I'll just totally be transparent on this, of starting podcast. I'd been talking about with you guys on the team that I'm going to start this podcast, the Accomplish More podcast. And it must have been well over a year, and maybe 2 years, that I've been saying, I'm going to do. And I did not start it. And it wasn't until I went to a Ray Edwards conference this year and met Cliff Ravenscraft, he's the podcast answer man. And I was talking with him because he was sitting next to me at this conference. And we just got to talk, and he's like, you need to get over yourself and just start.
Yeah.
And that's when I made the progress. And the first few, I believe it's like, oh my gosh, I can't stand to do this myself. And that's when you and I started doing it, because I'd rather just talk. It's just a weird thing. And but I was afraid. It's like, well, I don't like to hear my own voice. And we've got these earphones on, and all I can hear is my voice. And all these different things going on in my head, and it's got to be perfect before I can publish it.
Yeah.
Well, I came to grips with myself that we're all human, and I'm here to help people. And that's what I want to do, and I want people to get to know me, and that's when we started the Accomplish More podcast.
Yeah.
And over time, I'm going to get better at it.
Yes.
I would hope, and I really enjoy doing it. So it just, getting over ourselves, our fear of failure, because it sometimes just cripples us.
Yes, it can.
I have had clients that have taken forever to publish their website. It's in draft mode forever. And I said, I hated my website when I first started, but just push publish, and you can always change it. A website's never meant to be static.
Right.
And over time, it gets better. And I don't think that we have failure. I just think that we have lessons.
Stepping stones to the next one. Yes.
Number 8, they're not committed. So we don't get our goal, or we don't hit our goal because we're just not committed to it. You might set that goal and just start it half-heartedly, or you don't think you should do it, or you really just don't want to do it. Can you think of any examples on that?
Well, maybe an unrealistic goal, and you think, oh, I'm going to do this year. And as the year goes on, you realize it's not attainable, or maybe you no longer want that, whatever it was, and you just kind of let it slide. Or maybe it's really good for you and you should do it, but you can't really get yourself into it to go, maybe with exercise. You just can't get yourself out there to do it.
Well, the conversation that Robert and I have sometimes has the word should in the sentence. We should get out more. We should be exercising. We should be eating better. We should.
Mm-hmm.
And, but that word should doesn't commit us.
No.
I think the word will or I am
Mm-hmm.
does put that commitment in there. And I think sometimes we've got to really see the reason why we have that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And when we know that reason why, and we keep that reason that we're doing it in focus, then we're more committed to it.
Yeah.
And the timing becomes
Mm-hmm.
right. And we'll take the steps to do what we need to achieve that goal.
Mm-hmm.
And with your new business, one of the steps along the way, I think, is that you needed to take care of the home first.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree.
In order to devote your focus on building a brand new business.
Mm-hmm.
And that if things aren't, the mold is a health issue.
Mm-hmm.
And if you aren't feeling good, and if you don't have a good home, and your home's making you sick,
Yes.
that's not a good way. You've got to take care of that. So in order to move forward on the goal of building that new business, you needed to finish the house.
Mm-hmm.
Start and finish the
Yeah.
house. So you've got it to where you can devote more focus on
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
So I think that's exciting. Number 9, we give up too soon.
Mm-hmm.
Our society, we want instant results.
Yep.
Instant. Now, talking about weight, I don't know why we think that, okay, it's taken us how many years to creep up when our weight,
Mm-hmm.
that we need to lose 50 pounds in a week.
Yeah. Well, most people, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. And it's not so much of, that's, fad diets are popular because you can get some fairly instant results, but it's not really great for your health to lose weight so much. You can't pop a pill and have it have no effects on you whatsoever to lose weight. And it takes a lifestyle change.
Yeah.
And it takes walking a different path.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't see results immediately, then you give up. And I think that's what people do far too often. And having the overnight success is just a myth.
Yes, I agree.
And whether it's in your business or in your personal, it's a myth. Bottom line, people think that musicians or online marketers or online business people are overnight successes. It has taken them years to be this overnight success.
Yes.
And they put in the time and the effort and the work and the consistency of building relationships and seeing what works and what doesn't work and building that business. But it's not overnight.
No.
And so they just didn't give up. They had the tenacity. I see people all the time. They get involved in a business to sell a product or whatever, and they're very enthusiastic about it at first. And then if they don't have that instant results, and then they get enthusiastic about another business. So they abandon that one, and then they go to this other one. And then that doesn't work. Then they go to another one. And building anything does not happen instantly. It just doesn't.
Well, like you said with musicians, it seems like so many pop up new overnight and they're suddenly a success. But those people have been working for decades usually. playing in bars or, wherever they can to get their product heard.
And then you think, oh my gosh, I wish I could be an instant success like that. Oh my goodness. Every one of them would say how much hard work.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
And they have, I'm sure that it's crossed their mind to give up, but they kept going because their goal was, they went back to the reason why.
Their reason, yes.
Number 10, they don't follow a plan. There are other people out there that have probably seen the success in whatever goal you have that you might want to learn from. And you probably have either read their book or follow them some way. But if they have a plan that worked for them, wouldn't it seem reasonable that it might work for you? At least a lot of those tactics. Then why not listen to them and follow them? And follow it to a T for at least a period of time.
Yes, because they've been right where you are. There
are so many self-help books, programs out there and everything. And I admit I've tried some of them and some of them just didn't resonate with me. So I'm not going to try them. But the ones that I follow, it resonates, and I want to realize the same success. And if I'm frustrated and don't see the same success, I evaluate and say, oh yeah, I'm not doing what they tell me. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And I have a friend of mine who's a business coach, and he'll say, people come to him all the time frustrated because he's like, your plan doesn't work. And he's very straightforward guy. And he's like, are you following the steps? And they're not. Because you've got to follow the plan in order to even see if it works. I was listening to a podcast. Amy Porterfield is a online marketer, and she does a lot of webinars. And she got started in Facebook and teaching Facebook ads, and that was one of her first products. And now she's doing webinars, and she has a podcast. And I heard one of her podcasts about refunds and her take on refunds for her program, because you've got that money back guarantee that you hear all the time. Well, she won't give your money back unless you've taken the steps and you prove that you've actually taken the steps, because no plan is going to work if you don't actually doing it. And I like that take, because she said that, we have a high ticket item and there's buyer's remorse sometimes. And so she will work with those individuals and say, okay, is this buyer's remorse or is this really not working? And proving, going through, and it's hard to make those changes, as we've already said. Change is hard. She has said that a majority, she has such a small percentage of refunds that she needs to give, because once they put in the work, they see results. And she doesn't have to give refunds. Good. And so her marketing, those people are making tons more just by following the steps. So it well paid for the program. But if it does not work for someone, she's happy to give the money back. But I loved her take on, I'm not giving the money back unless you follow the plan. So goals don't happen unless you follow a plan.
Exactly.
We've gotten through 10 of the 15 mistakes in goal setting. Now, we don't want to make this show entirely too long for you, so we'll pick up where we left off next week. It's good to know and understand the common mistakes so that we can recognize when we're falling into the wrong habits or the wrong routines. Really, this whole business about goal setting is creating new routines for ourselves. We hope that you enjoyed the show. If you find this show useful and helpful, we encourage you to subscribe on iTunes and let us know your thoughts. You can leave a comment or always drop us a note at podcast@scrivenersolutions.com. That's podcast at SCRIVENER solutions.com. Until next time, have a fantastic week.